So growing up in Ohio with a single dad mostly was a challenge. Learning a much different way than I'm learning now. Where I came from didn't define where I was going. So before Rise, I was in the military for 10 years. And I really just didn't know my walk with Christ. Always in constant conflict, and I was constantly feeling like I was just lost. It was miserable. I was crying every night, and I just felt so empty. I met one of my best friends, and that's really what changed it for me. So I went from going to a bar every single night and going out and staying out till 3 o'clock in the morning to then sitting on a porch with this guy from deep South Louisiana. He literally would be like, sit down on this porch. We're going to talk about something. He would give me coffee and we would just listen to sermons, and he would read the Bible to me. He would teach me how to read the Bible. He taught me what it meant to have a relationship with Christ. And the hard times had already happened in my life. I had gone through sexual childhood trauma. I had gone through abuse. I had gone through my parents being divorced. I had gone through practically being an alcoholic at one point, turning to marijuana a lot. Being confused with my sexuality because of the things that I had gone through. And it was, finding peace after all that. I had no idea a new set of trials was coming once I gave my life to Christ. I just remember breaking down in a closet one day and I was like, why is this all happening to me? And I learned so much about myself to the fact that made me get into the first version of therapy that I'd ever experienced in my entire life. And that led me to healing childhood traumas. That led me into healing parts of me that I didn't even know were broken yet. God wasn't done. It took me about 6 very, very hard years and very hard lessons. I was so prideful and arrogant and thinking that I knew what I needed. I had so many things in my life that I was repeating. My mom's been divorced twice. My dad was divorced twice. I had gotten divorced twice at that point now. I was like, man, I have to change. As I came into Rise, pretty much in the midst of divorce and everything else going on with my daughter, I hit my really, really low point. And when the divorce was happening, I was getting out of the military and I lost my entire sense of identity. Everything that I stood for as a man was going away. I wasn't going to be a full-time dad. I wasn't going to be a husband. I wasn't going to be a major in the military anymore. I was going to just be me, and I didn't know who that was. At that point in my life, what I would do is recluse. That's when Pastor Jason was the one that called me, and I didn't even know he had my number, and he called me and was like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. I just wanted to know how you're doing, and I just broke down. He gave me the open opportunity to meet with him, and had I not done that, I wouldn't be where I am now. So, him giving me sanity checks and allowing me to be vulnerable and talk to him about the decisions I want to make, and just having a genuine brother and friend guide me completely changed everything. Transitioning from going from the back of the church to the front of the church was a challenge for me. And it was one that I probably wouldn't have done on my own. It was something that Cody was the one that really initially came up to me and was like, hey, I think you should start serving. I think you should do these things, doing it in a place where nobody would see me. And the more I got around those men, the more I wanted to serve because I was watching them. That's part of the transition of me wanting to stay in the state. Like, I wanted to go home so badly. So I kind of rejected and neglected the idea of spiritual family here because I was like, all right, this isn't my permanent residency. I'm going to go back home. I don't need to get plugged in here. There's nobody that I'm really going to connect with. I was wrong, again, as always, when it comes to what I think I know about the spiritual world. And when I started doing counseling with Pastor Jason, then that opened a door to talking to Cody. And then when that happened, that opened a door to Walt. And then he just asked me if I wanted to be the coordinator for the setup and teardown team. And that was really probably the big shift, is like when it came to being a coordinator, I was like, all right, I'm not just a church guy anymore. Like, this is something that I stand for. I'm going to make this a part of my identity and my life. So the idea of vulnerable and being vulnerable was something that was an idea that turned into more of a purpose for my life. It was the idea that you've gone through these things for a reason. You're going to be a warrior for silent battles for other men, to teach them that vulnerability is the key to healthy masculinity, that they don't have to hold this in. The first moment that I had experienced that is when another single dad in our church came up to me. I was serving and I was in the back just at a table kind of listening. And he had told me a little bit about what he was going through with his child and with his child's mom and everything that was happening. And listening to his story, it was like, I've done this. Like, I can tell you exactly how I felt and how I got through it and exactly how I think you should handle it. And, you don't have to do that by yourself. I could feel his sadness and I could feel him trying to just not be open about it. And I just hugged him and I was like, you can let it go. It's okay. Like, you're all right. I know it hurts. And he just cried in my arms in the back of service. And I was like, that's exactly what I should have been doing this whole time. Like, leading that into now getting to lead men's groups. My first one had 4 people, and it was great. And it was almost an experiment. Like, am I qualified to do this? Am I able to lead other men? People left there feeling lighter, feeling changed. And it's such a confirmation that the reason that I'm here and that's supposed to help other people. I remember growing up, everything I had been chasing and wanting to run back to for comfort was something that was already here for me, but I was just not allowing myself to be open to it. Every time there was growth in my life, I had to get to the end of myself. I had to say, okay, I quit. And then God would say, okay, I'll go to work now. I can only experience supernatural by getting to the end of my intellect. Obedience led to the unlocked doors. The process was me learning to distinguish the voices, to having discernment, to say, like, am I fighting the thing that I'm feeling God tell me, or am I doing it? As I would debate, as I was going through things, whether it was relationships or jobs or the next chapter of my life, it was, is this what I want to do, or is this what God wants me to do? And getting to the end of myself and being like, okay, God, I don't know what the next step is. And him saying, do you trust me? And me saying, yes. What does that look like? What does it look like laying it down? Because I had a bad habit of laying things down at the cross and then picking it back up after I regained my strength. Impossible to deny the fact that obedience directly related to my blessings and my next step, and that is my path. The more obedient I can become, the more purpose and fulfillment's revealed in my life. What I'm most excited about the Forward series is for other people to be touched by other people's stories, because it's all human interaction. It's all about the human emotion, and I'm so excited that other people get to see that we're all human and that we all have our struggles, and that together that we can go forward further together, and that our next chapter and our next walk in this journey together is just going to be unbelievable, and I can't wait to see what's next.